Hello and welcome to the Web Canopy Studio Show. I'm your host Tom Andrews, and today we're diving into the digital deep end to explore how switching CRMs to HubSpot can take your business to the next level. Let's begin. So John, how are things going?
Things are going well, man. I've been super busy this week. We've had a lot of new people coming in with sales calls. We've had a lot of new clients onboarding. We've had a lot of different agencies reaching out, doing some different agency training scenarios. So there's a lot. We've just been really busy. There's a lot going on. What about you?
So over the weekend, I did actually do something pretty fun. I went to a 1920s murder mystery night. And
Oh, no way. Yeah. You told me you were doing something like that. How was it?
it was cool. It was amazing. I was not expecting it to be that good. It's something my girlfriend wanted to do because she loves the 1920s, the fashion, the dancing, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I didn't think I did. And then we went there, and it was essentially theatre slash murder mystery. So it was a performance group who, as soon as you walk in there, in a really nice building in Norwich, and they're in character straight away. And the whole premise of it was you're going in 1920 prohibition, not allowed to drink alcohol, and they're giving you like grape juice, and that's your alcohol. And then they
Mm-hmm.
get you in, and then they act out this brilliant play, and then you've got to guess who the murderer is, and they come and talk to you. It's like very interactive. So yeah, I had an absolute blast doing that.
That is
Um,
awesome. Did you know who it
yeah,
was? Could you figure it out?
yeah, we did, and we got the motive right. The only thing is, like, a few other tables got it, and where it was only me and my girlfriend, and on our table there were two other couples. The table they chose to win it was a table of six because the prize was a bottle of champagne. So I think they just thought, if that let's just give the prize to like the big
Ah,
table. So yeah, that was a bit
yeah.
annoying, like, but it was incredible. And yeah, even though I love technology in the sense that John, it brought me and you together, I sometimes think, you know what, a world where there's no technology could have been quite fun.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So so you said we've taken a lot of sales calls. How have they gone? Any interesting conversations come up?
Yeah, I will say that sales is such a fun world. You have some of the most interesting stories of just people who do different things, and we've had so many weird things. So I've had people not realize their cameras on, and there's things going on in the background that I can't say because this is an explicit podcast. We've had people like, I had this guy show up to one at like 8 in the morning, and he had his shirt off, and he had like just a ton of chest hair, huge beard, and he's eating cereal as we're talking, and the milk is just pouring down all over him. And it was the most disgusting, awful thing. And I
Did
even
he
pointed
recover
out
the
that
arthritis?
no, he did not. But I even pointed out, I was like, hey, your camera's on. Just he's like, I know. I'm like, okay, is this a power move? We're
Wow.
like, okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
That's an
So,
alpha male move right there.
yeah, but lately we've been doing a lot of. I can't say lately because we've done them forever, but more so right now. I think with the changes that are happening around Salesforce, we have so many companies that are looking to get into HubSpot instead of Salesforce, and so we've done hundreds of these over the years of just like rip and replace or migrations or integrations. And HubSpot's better for so many different reasons. But um, as a service provider in that world, the biggest thing that has just stuck out to me are some of the stories that people share about their experiences and all the things that they share about why Salesforce is a pain for them and why they want to leave or they want to look in a different direction. And I'll share this one story because yesterday I had a call with a CFO for a fairly large company, and they have offices all over, several different offices throughout the world, and they've been using Salesforce for I think about 2 years now. And he was telling me the story of when they were onboarding with Salesforce, and the team was not transparent to them. Like they kept asking, okay, they were negotiating on their costs, they were negotiating on what the actual implementation would be, but they could never get a fee for the implementation. They had to bring in other partners, and Salesforce was telling them, well, we can reduce your fee. We can, we'll give you a credit for $7,000 for your implementation. And so they're thinking, okay, that's, what is that? Half of my implementation fee, probably. That feels pretty good. They ended up not taking the package because they were trying to get them to upgrade and trying to make a bunch of changes quickly so they could, get a end of month kind of special. They just felt something was off and they didn't take the upgraded package when it was offered to them. They found out later that the implementation fee that Salesforce admin company, the third party company, was giving them was $280,000 to implement their Salesforce instance. And my jaw hit the floor when I heard that, because I was like, I'm in the wrong business. Clearly, if that, like, we do HubSpot implementation, average for us is like 20K to 50K when it's that kind of a migration with a larger company, and like $280,000 for that. There's no way that company needed that, especially now that I know the company they've been a client of ours for a while now, and this was a kind of a phase 2 thing. There's no way that is necessary at all.
I almost feel like some companies almost base their whole business model around charging something ridiculous, which is, there's a fine line between being confident in your rates and screwing people over. And I feel like a lot of the time, some of these companies are across the line, sometimes slightly, sometimes considerably. And I feel
Yeah,
like their whole business models are essentially getting people on the phone, selling them these ridiculously overpriced services,
absolutely.
knowing most people are going to say no, but literally living off like the one client a month, or maybe even less than that, who are going to say yes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's their business. So, John, the first question I want to ask, and let's look at it from a very bird's eye point of view. What would you say are, if you had to condense it down to five main benefits, what are the five main benefits HubSpot might provide a company over Salesforce and other competitors?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We actually started a document internally to capture like our favorite quotes that we hear from people who are, whether they're comparing HubSpot to Salesforce or they're leaving Salesforce and coming into HubSpot. And they're just like, they hurt so bad to see them, especially if you're living in that world, because you're like, oh my gosh, I feel that exact same way. And the first one boils down to the cost and the pricing model. One of the quotes that we have is, one of the things that we've heard clients say time and time again is that they nearly fall off their chair when they get to the pricing components of what it's actually going to cost them, because it's not like everything is just transparent in Salesforce. Okay, yes, I'm buying Salesforce. Yes, I'm getting into this product. There's constantly add-ons. And so the things that you want to do, you feel good when you first start, but then it just constantly is more and more and more added to where you're being nickel and dime to death. It's death by a thousand cuts, really. And that is one of the biggest frustrations that people have, and why they want to leave is because they don't want to be experiencing that, and that it's such a pain. And that was been a really good value point from HubSpot's perspective. That has nothing to do with us, but from HubSpot's pricing model perspective, it's extremely upfront and transparent. It's very clear. The only time that you need to increase anything is when you add a new person. So I'm adding a whole bunch of new salespeople, which is fantastic. That's a great problem to have. That means you're doing well. Or if you need to increase your number of contacts, right? Aside from, let's just completely upgrade to the enterprise tier. But that's not, something that's just oh, I didn't realize I had to do that kind of thing, like within Salesforce. So I would say, the biggest one right there is around cost and pricing, essentially.
Awesome. So I guess it's obviously going to differ company to company, situation to situation, but is it fair to say that across the board, most of the time, going with HubSpot is going to save you quite a lot of money then, even if the end goal you want is going to be the same, HubSpot versus Salesforce, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. So it's not necessarily that it's going to be, it could be just a complete shift if you're migrating to HubSpot instead of Salesforce. Sometimes the fees on paper might work out to be roughly the same. Usually HubSpot comes in a little bit under Salesforce. Where the real value comes, from my perspective at least, is all of the other crap that you've had to deal with Salesforce is just not needed anymore. So I would even say my second point of why HubSpot is probably better than Salesforce from a usability standpoint is around the user experience. Like we hear constantly that, oh, I swear half of my day is spent just trying to navigate and click around and get Salesforce to show me what I want it to do or to do what I want it to do. And so one of the questions I always ask people, I even asked this guy yesterday on a sales call, a completely different call. I was like, can you quantify for me the amount of time that you spend in a week? Not just you, but like give me a rough estimate of your team. How many hours are they spending a week inside of the tools that they're using? And he was like, I could easily say on average, or say 10 hours a week for per person. And so we counted up all the different salespeople, then service people and marketing people that are using the tools. We have a really great number now that when we're going through an integration and implementation process, like I'm going to show them that we're going to get that down to like reduce that by 80%. And then we're going to talk through the numbers of what that actually looks like from an ROI perspective, because you're talking a reduction of like just immense amount of hours every month that is now usable other places. Imagine salespeople having that many more hours in a day. So
I think
yeah,
that's the really big thing as well, because I don't think any salesperson on this planet says the favorite part of their job is being inside Salesforce or even
oh,
HubSpot, whoever like whatever tool you use. They all don't want to do that aspect of the job. They just want to sell and make their money. But obviously they have to, because doing all of that stuff is vital. So if you can literally reduce their time by 80%, even if it's just cutting it in half, that's still a massive time saver for them. And as you just alluded to, that time they're saved is then going to be able to be reinvested back into the business, because they're just going to be able to sell.
yep, big time. And the other piece of that is just the complexity on the reporting too, because that plays into that same hourly amount. But that's probably the third one is it's almost like a non-issue that's discussed. It is actually a major issue. The data that I need to see as a sales manager, as a CFO, as a CEO, whatever it is, I need to be able to see immediately where I'm at. I need a perspective of what the company's doing today. I need to see what we've done last quarter, and I want to project into the future. And I don't want to spend a day trying to piece together reports or run reports or configure these reports that don't make sense. And I could ask my team to do it, but am I going to trust what they're giving me? Do I think they're going to just plug in the gaps inside Salesforce? There's a lot of things that you have to just plug in the gaps to make sure that things work. So there's just not a lot of transparency into there. And so that reporting piece is a really big challenge. That's probably number 3. Number 4 goes right along into the next one, Tom, and that is usability. Most companies, especially once they have multiple people involved in Salesforce, they're required to have another position called a Salesforce admin. And sometimes that's a full-time position to have somebody sit as a Salesforce admin, and they are not cheap. And they are tasked with doing a lot of the additional things that are needed inside of Salesforce to get it to show reports or to do the automations or the things that you'd want it to do, to connect with the other tools, and not necessary. It's not always something that's absolutely necessary. That being said, Salesforce admins are some of my most favorite people, because when we get to bring HubSpot into the mix, usually they see HubSpot as like this, oh no, you're going to replace my job. But once a Salesforce admin sees the beauty of HubSpot, their role is now HubSpot and Salesforce admin, or just a HubSpot admin, and they are extremely more productive, and it's easier for them, and they can now tie really great tangible ROI to the efforts that they are doing, and they become quite a hero inside of the company. So yeah.
So, John, I just want to go into a little bit more depth about that Salesforce admin, just because even though you've said there that they don't need to worry, there are still going to be Salesforce admins thinking, oh, like, is John just saying I don't need to worry? Like,
Yeah.
but I actually do. So have you got any real life experience of dealing with a Salesforce admin who maybe was a bit worried at first about migrating, but then ended up loving
Hmm.
it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, one in particular comes to mind, and they were a relatively larger Salesforce instance. As far as just contacts and companies, there's just a lot intertwined inside of what they had. So there definitely was a need for somebody to know the ins and outs of what was happening. So Salesforce admin absolutely critical in that situation. And then they were getting into HubSpot primarily because what they wanted to do was run sales operations out of Salesforce, totally fine, and then run marketing operations out of HubSpot, which is a beautiful integration. And actually, I think if you're using Salesforce, that's probably the best way to make it really powerful because you can have the data flowing so nicely. It's one of the best integrations that HubSpot has today. And so what this company did, their Salesforce admin was not a part of our contract agreement because we were dealing with like different people. And so when they came in, they saw us as a bit of a threat. They honestly, they thought we were here to like replace them or to tell them where they sucked and where their job was not good. And it couldn't have been further from the truth because she actually ended up being, became very close with us, was one of our best allies throughout the entire implementation process. We helped her navigate so much of the frustration that she was experiencing, not just from what could I not get done inside of Salesforce, because admittedly, even the best experts of Salesforce still have things that they're trying to solve for, which is kind of funny. But we helped bring all kinds of the transparency there through the connection with HubSpot. And we used the data quality tool inside of HubSpot to help even clean the data and merge the data and just make it operate completely more cohesively. And so now all of these things that she had been trying to get done inside of the team that honestly her team wasn't really taking as seriously as they should have, she now had so much ammunition through reports and really great lifecycle stage data, response time, activity information. She was able to feed reports immediately to her sales team, or I'm sorry, to the sales managers and the C-suite about what was happening, what are the real-time statistics inside of her current job. So she became that much more valuable in her company as a Salesforce admin because of the integration we built and optimized within HubSpot. And she would message us on the side out after our meetings, because our meetings would be with multiple people from their team. And she would message us on the side and just say, I can't thank you enough for getting my team to talk about these things and like bringing that transparency. And she felt more solidified in her role and in her career. So it was a complete shift from like, oh, I see HubSpot and Web Canopy Studio as this threat to what I'm doing, to a, wow, I have a lot more legs to stand on here. I have a lot more stability right now, and people are really listening to my recommendations. This is awesome. So it's definitely a win for Salesforce admins. Absolutely.
That's awesome, and also a massive win for the company as well because they're going to get
Yeah.
better reports. So
Mm-hmm.
win-win all round, which we love. So that's four. They are four of the major benefits to switching to
Yep.
HubSpot. What's the fifth and final one? Not the final one, but the final one
Oh
for
yeah.
podcast's sake.
I think we could talk about 20 if we had to. I would say probably the next one, it kind of goes into the expansion. Oh, you need to have this, you need to have this kind of thing. But the way that Salesforce integrates with other tools is not, I'll say it's not cohesive to the way a business should be running. And what I mean by that is HubSpot has one CRM. It is a core CRM. It is where all of the things inside of HubSpot, regardless of what hubs you have, it's all the same platform. So the sales tool is utilizing the same information, the same records. The marketing tool utilizing the same records. The service tool is utilizing the same records. It's not something where we have to sync and integrate with all these other pieces. Salesforce, on the other hand, does not operate that way. They will say they do, but in reality, you're syncing things across other platforms. You have to sync to other tools. If you buy these other modules, you have to add these other tools in the syncs. You have to integrate with other products. There are some that are a lot more native than others, I will admit that, but it is not anything compared to the way HubSpot operates. So the value there, I guess the pain there is the amount of room for error, and the amount of ways of things to go wrong is large inside of Salesforce. Um, a lot of double checking, a lot of like, is this right where we at? Did this move? Okay, wait, it's not, the automation's not firing here because this didn't happen over here, kind of thing. It's not to say that can't happen in HubSpot, because it certainly can. It's just much easier to double check and to have all in one place. And so and that's not their tagline anymore. That was like their big thing for years, was like an all-in-one marketing automation tool. But they're not just marketing automation, not even a little bit. It's so much more than that. So now, for example, what we help customers do, our customers, we help our clients do, they have a single source of truth, which it would be HubSpot, and we have a contact record. And so I'm looking at this contact record of who this person is. I can see the companies associated to that record. I can see every deal that's ever been associated to that record, whether that's their initial deal, an upsell, a cross sell. I can see renewals, and it's all on the same record. I can see every single service ticket that they ever submitted, anytime they live chatted with my team, anytime that they submitted a support ticket, anytime they've called in. I can see every single sales interaction, every single marketing campaign that they've worked on. I can see all of the different integrations where that contact has been synced to a completely third-party tool like an ERP, or there's an invoice created in QuickBooks from this about this contact. It's all in one place in HubSpot. So that right there, just to see that in Salesforce, is an hour plus to get that view, to get that visibility. And that's hoping you understand the tools. And not counting all, like, well, I don't even know what we're using for this, so I have to go figure out what happened there. It's not as simple. So just like, again, snapshot, I can see everything in one place immediately. That's the beauty of HubSpot, and that's what we want to see with all of our customers as they're using HubSpot, is to look at it from that lens.
So, John, I just want to delve a little bit deeper into that, because a few episodes ago, we spoke about marketing backwards. And so if you haven't listened to that episode, by the way, go and listen to the last few, actually, because they're really important if you do want to generate more leads very quickly. And a big part of the marketing backwards philosophy is ensuring your marketing team and sales team are completely on the same page. From what you've been saying, a lot of sales marketing teams at companies that use Salesforce, they're not going to be aligned, and there's going to be some maybe gaps in their knowledge, if that makes sense, or
Mm-hmm.
no alignment in the strategy. So can you just talk about, let's say you're the CEO of a company that uses Salesforce. Can you talk about what frustrations you could experience with marketing and sales not being on the same page because of
Oh, yeah,
the data
yeah.
they're given?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I would say so. Kind of, I'm a dad. I have 4 kids, and there's nothing more frustrating than when my kids like should be working together on something and they're not, and it's almost like they're competing against each other. Similar to that situation. So from a CEO perspective, I'm looking at a sales team, I'm looking at marketing team, and let's say they're not aligned. They're using different tools, even if they're using the other Salesforce marketing tools. That usually what we're going to see is a lack of communication or collaboration. And even if that is the case, the lack of transparency on the back end, that closed loop reporting, is generally a lot harder to achieve using Salesforce than it is in HubSpot. And that's just across the board. You could do it. You still can. Tons of companies do achieve it in Salesforce, but you have to know how to get that to happen, or you have to pay somebody to do it for you. It's not as simple as just opening the tool, getting an out of the box report, and now you have complete reporting transparency on that closed loop relationship. So what I mean by that is some examples. Nothing is more frustrating from a salesperson perspective when you're working on a substantial deal and the marketing team sends a marketing email out that you don't want them to receive. We've had clients that come to us because of that was the trigger to get them to stop using Salesforce in the first place, because they were working a deal. They might have been working a deal and the marketing team sends out an email about discounts and about these new product promotions that they're selling. And now they come to the salesperson, and the salesperson has to honor that. But the salesperson might have needed that full price deal to get them through the month. And so now they have to honor that. then maybe that was deceiving of them. I don't know, that's a practice, not my general thing that I have to rule on because that's somebody else's company. But I can say they're not given that ability because they're using other tools and weren't able to see it. That can still happen in HubSpot, absolutely, but it's a lot easier to catch inside of HubSpot because you can see that. So for example, if I'm working in HubSpot, I'm a salesperson and I'm working on a contact record, I can immediately see when a marketing email is sent to that person. I can also easily remove them from any list or just easily have an automation created that will not let them join list or be sent workflow emails because they're being in my active deal. You can set that up from a deal stage perspective. So somebody who's like a lead to an MQL, maybe now they're in my pipeline, and I can say when they enter this stage of the pipeline, do not let them be sent any marketing emails, or only enroll them in my specific MQL email list or email workflow. And so there's a lot of different things inside of HubSpot that's just inherently easier to do than it is in Salesforce. So from a CEO perspective, looking at that across my teams, I don't want to see blind spots, and I don't want to see areas where they're not easily fixable, where things are happening that I don't want to have happen.
And that's key. And from the 5 things you've mentioned today, from listening in, my big takeaway would be simplicity. And I think there's so many tools out there that they make themselves sound sexy because of how complicated they are. And it's like, we can do this, we can do that. But in reality, you want something that does all of those things, but does all of those things easily and quickly. Because if you're a CEO or if you're director of marketing, sales, whatever, you are busy. You've got a lot of things going on, fires to put out, a lot going on. You just want the key reports, the key information there and then. And from listening in, from my perspective, HubSpot just seems so much simpler and, and because of that, more powerful.
It's easier to use. It's easier to look at. Let's be honest. Yeah. There's not a person in this world. Not a person is going to come to me and tell me they really love the interface of Salesforce. I guarantee it. If you do, there's something wrong. HubSpot is just so much easier to look at. It's better to use. It's quicker. It's faster. The UI is just inherently more native and easy to understand. It really reminds me of, do you remember 15 years ago, maybe it was even before, maybe it was 20 years ago now, the Windows versus Mac TV commercials?
I don't know.
Maybe they didn't show those in England, but there is anybody listening to this from the United States will probably remember these, where they had Justin Long, cool hip dude, and he's Mac, and then they have PC, and it's this guy who's nerdy and he's wearing a suit and he's over complicating everything, and it's like, well, I'm a Mac and I'm a PC, and he would just say something, the PC would say something that he's working on, the Mac's like, well, I don't have to worry about that. It's very much like that old commercial series. So sorry you don't get it, Tom. You have to watch it.
That's what I mean. As a marketing guy, I need to go on YouTube now and see those things.
Yeah, I'll find one and send it to you. It's a good call.
They are cool. So thank you very much for listening to today's episode. We've covered the 5 main benefits of using HubSpot over Salesforce and other competing CRMs. Predominantly focused on the HubSpot versus Salesforce debate, of course, just because, as John mentioned, that's where most people's issues lie who come to us. So I hope you got a lot of value out of this. And John, what do you think we'll talk about next time? And by the way, listeners, when we say this, you might be like, we've got that coming up. And then me and John might just go off on a tangent because a lot of our conversations do. But I promise everything we talk about will be of good value. So with that in mind, John, what do you think we'll talk about next episode?
Well, that's a good question, Tom. I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. But I will say this has been really helpful for me because I have a call in 5 minutes with somebody who is coming over from Salesforce to HubSpot, and I have to talk through benefits. So this was a really good primer for me. So excellent topic today, Mr. Tom.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully we'll hit another topic goldmine next time.
Nice.
So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks
listening.
So much. Yeah,
thank you.
We'll catch you later.
See ya.